Jonas Jacobs was a foreman in a bustling construction site. Throughout his life, he had been a part of building most of the major skyscrapers that rose up around him. This turned into a source of pride that he injected into his work, from the smallest details to the broadest vision. Despite being an excellent foreman, Jonas never felt completely fulfilled. He had always believed that he was destined for greatness. His drive for success was unmatched, and he was always seeking to better himself, to learn new techniques and methods that would make him an even better foreman. And yet, there was a part of him that knew he was capable of even more, that he had a potential that went beyond his current role. This restlessness left him constantly seeking new opportunities, hungry for the chance to prove himself and make his mark on the world. On a sweltering summer day, Jonas toiled away as usual, but today was anything but normal. A man in a sharp suit approached him, his face smirking with an air of arrogance. It was Donaldson, a controversial politician known for crossing the political aisle. He was running for re-election and had been tipped off about Jonas's exceptional ambition. Little did Jonas know, Donaldson was a master of manipulation, a man who knew how to prey on others' desires and vulnerabilities. Physical work could be numbing, and he believed that Jonas wanted something more. Although the politician was motivated by self-interest, he made Jonas a generous offer to join his campaign team, complete with significant pay and promises of career advancement. However, there was a catch. Donaldson had shrewd practices, and he hinted that Jonas would need to follow along if he wanted to benefit from the position. He dangled the opportunity in front of Jonas like a carrot, waiting to see if he would take the bait. They both knew this was a turning point decision that would have far-reaching consequences, but Donaldson knew a little more and changed his offer to something smaller that Jonas could hardly refuse. He simply invited Jonas to a campaign rally he was having, where Jonas could see for himself what he could be a part of. He could smell the ambition sweating out of Jonas and eagerly extended his hand to steal it. At the rally, a popular comedian named Reggie Rogan was endorsing the politician's campaign. Reggie's routine had the crowd on fire with laughter, but Jonas noticed the subtle nods of agreement that followed each punchline. As the show continued, Jonas began to see through Reggie's joking. Poking fun at the things that caused people stress was actually his way of soothing his own anxiety. For a moment, Jonas ignored his skepticism and saw the event for what it was, people enjoying themselves. He tried to remind himself that he had always appreciated the comedian for his honesty, but from this new perspective, he saw Reggie's true purpose. He saw the weariness underneath the comedian's facade, the way his smile seemed to falter just for a moment before being plastered back on his face. Reggie was not just there to ease the burdens of the audience and make them feel seen and understood. He was there to relieve the pressure of what society is expected to bear. This helped Jonas realize that even the most charismatic and confident individuals could be struggling to stand strong under societal pressure. Jonas began to feel a sense of unease and recognized his decision, so he got up and began to move through the sea of people. He bumped into Monroe Madison, a well-known news anchor. They had met years ago when she was early in her career as a reporter. At the time, she interviewed Jonas about a project he was heading, and he poured out his soul to her. That interview went viral, and not only did it help advance her career, but it was also the interview that sparked Donaldson's interest in Jonas. Monroe pulled Jonas back from leaving and introduced him to Leonard Levy, a prominent criminal defense lawyer. Leonard somehow sensed Jonas's wavering support for the politician and, in the spirit of comedy, started comically bragging about his ability to influence the politician's actions and how the city needs someone like him. Leonard and Monroe were both large investors in the campaign, and the more they talked about it, the less Jonas felt a need to help Donaldson. All their talking just felt like personal smokescreens for the politician. The tension in the air was palpable, but the conversation continued, and Jonas found himself increasingly uneasy with the situation. The power dynamics at play were dizzying, and he wasn't sure he could trust anyone. Jonas felt like he was caught in a spider's web, and this encounter with Monroe and Leonard had left him questioning everything he thought he knew about himself and his place in the world. After Reggie left the stage, Jonas saw it as an opportunity to leave, but Leonard had been drinking heavily and insisted that Jonas wait until the politician gave his speech. Leonard told Monroe and Jonas about a secluded area where they can wait for Donaldson. As they sat down, Jonas had accidentally dialed his office phone and his voicemail began recording. Leonard's ego was fueled up, and he began making bolder and bolder statements that he shouldn't have. It wasn't long before he made full-blown incriminating statements that implicated them all in unethical behavior. During all of this, Jonas was intimidated into just smiling, nodding, and listening. It was somewhat stressful until he decided to have a drink. After that, things smoothed out, and eventually, the politician took the stage and gave an intriguing and charming speech. Afterwards, the crowd surrounded the politician with a loving energy, and the overall positive spirit of the event allowed Jonas to leave with a more positive outlook on helping the politician. Days later, as Jonas was reviewing his voicemails, he stumbled upon a recording of the conversation he had with Monroe and Leonard. As he listened to their words, he was filled with a sense of horror and disgust. He was reminded of how blinded he had been to the ethical implications at play. If he continued, he would be complicit in something far more sinister than he had ever imagined. The stark realization left him shaken. Even if he chose to distance himself from the politician, he now possessed tangible evidence that could incriminate some very bad actors. Jonas had a small but heavy decision to make. He could turn in the evidence of the politician's corrupt practices, risking his career and personal reputation, or he could keep his mouth shut to silence his morality and let the corrupt practices continue. The decision weighed heavily on him, and he knew that no matter what he chose, there would be major consequences.